All right, guys, let's wrap up the program with a little Tedertainment Tonight. I'm going to start in music. I'm an old geezer, as you know, not as old as these guys. The Rolling Stones dropped a new album, and I got to tell you guys,
wow.
you got to check it out because
Okay.
it's called Hackney Diamonds. They have special guests. It's like the young kids nowadays have special guests as their, on their songs. They have Lady Gaga, Stevie Wonder, Elton John, the late Charlie Watts. Mick and Keith are 80. Ron Wood is 75. But I'm telling you, man, if you're a Rolling Stones fan or an old time classic rock and roll fan, it's unbelievable. Nobody can do this nowadays. I mean, at their age, and their music is completely viable. It's good. It's a good album.
I appreciate, honestly, that's the best thing I've ever heard about the Rolling Stones, is that they're still firing. They still got albums going. I never got it with them. I don't understand. I don't like even looking at I just did it quick to make sure I'm not an idiot. I looked at their greatest hits. It's not exactly the Beatles. What is it about them? Why does the
obsession? Pretty damn near the Beatles. If you just have Alexa or whatever and listen, actually sit there and listen to their music. I mean, maybe it's a generational thing. Very well could be. I think they're right behind the Beatles. As number two,
but they're not more. They're not almost more so. Not necessarily that. Apparently, their music is great, but they're not more so building off of the fact, like kind of more the name Mick Jagger, like the symbol of the Rolling Stones, more than I guess what their music actually sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair, or is that not? Is that wrong?
That's right.
I grew up, so I'd be curious. Yeah, Ted obviously disagrees with that. I grew up listening to classic rock. I mean, we've talked about music before. I have a great appreciation for classic rock. I've never
liked them.
Not like I never liked them, but just never like seen the intrigue, I guess, kind of like what Jared's saying. I know a lot of their songs. They have a ton of hits, of course, but the Stones to me just kind of
Is their logo the tongue? That's them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more so like in my lifetime, at least, it's not really that their music has stuck around. It's the logo, it's the name. I mean, great band name, to be honest. Rolling Stones, perfect. Mm-hmm. It's again, I don't know. I feel bad saying that, Ted. But I mean, they're kind of before your run, aren't they?
They're right in this. They're right in the early run. I mean, when the Beatles came over and played Ed Sullivan in '64, the Rolling Stones were right behind them. The very first hit the Rolling Stones had was a Lennon-McCartney tune that they let them have to record.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, and obviously our 3-point generational thing here definitely comes into effect. No offense if you don't like them, but I think some of the other older people would really appreciate this new album. I mean, there's guys like Billy Joel, right? He makes his living playing all his hits. That's all he does. He doesn't write music anymore. He has a gig at Madison Square Garden. They make all their money on gigs, and that's fair. But the Rolling Stones actually wrote new songs that are bangers. I mean, they really are. So
is it the same sound that they've always had? Is it just it's just 40 years later, or is it different?
Oh, it's incredible. Maybe the sound engineers, who knows? But Jagger sounded awesome. Keith Richards sounded awesome on guitar. I mean, and by the way, you know how I always like to throw another old geezer out there, Howard Stern. I heard an 1.5-hour interview with Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones.
That'd be cool.
Fascinating interview.
So stuff like that, I would definitely love to listen to hear those stories and just to hear, the growth, whatever. That would be super interesting. That's what I mean. I know the Stones are legendary. I just, they've never been. So maybe it's also like my parents, they're in your age group, Ted.
Right.
I know they obviously know the Stones and probably listen to them. I don't think they were one of their favorite bands.
That's fair. Yeah.
Of all the music that I grew up listening to.
Right.
I don't think I really remember my dad listening to the Rolling Stones a whole lot. So maybe that's part of it.
Yeah.
But no, they're legendary. And speaking of another one, I had mentioned it before in the same age group, Aerosmith.
Right.
Steven Tyler's 75. And I'm sure you guys heard that, he had an injury. The show that we were supposed to go to here in Charlotte, we're recording on Monday. It was supposed to be tomorrow night, Tuesday. And they had to cancel this tour because he initially just like strained his vocal cords, they thought, but he actually like fractured his vocal cords or something like absolutely ridiculous. So they had to cancel this tour. They're saying it's postponed. They're saying they're going to reschedule for next year. So hopefully, because that was definitely one. We were super excited to go see Aerosmith.
You're gonna end up like Ted, Matt, where it was like 4 years they were waiting to go to that Billy Joel show.
Yeah,
right. Hopefully, it'll make it that much sweeter for you.
Yeah. The thing I just hope. Steven Tyler, like Mick Jagger, and a ton of other guys. It's the voice. That's all it is. It's the voice. So is he going to sound the same? Like, I just am curious about the recovery at 75.
That's going to be
like,
tough.
Is he even going to sound the same? I don't know. So a little bit, of a downer, because we were pretty excited to see Aerosmith.
Kind of similar singing style as Axl Rose, and I don't think he ever bounced back 100% from his vocal issues. So I hope it works your way, and you can get a chance to see him. He still sounds good. I've got a couple other, but there's one I want to get on the table. Sometimes I listen back to our podcast and go, man, I share way too much information with these guys. It always comes back to bite me. But another geezer thing, everybody was really big time into The Bachelor, and we laughed about it. We said, how come people are watching The Bachelor? And my wife and I both said, let's check out The Golden Bachelor. Oh my goodness. I know why people watch The Bachelor now. We're sitting there and we're making all these snide comments about the different people and, The Bachelor himself. And you know what else? The franchise. I can tell that they know what they're doing because they set it up perfectly. The very first episode, first 10-minute segment, Jerry Turner is the Golden Bachelor. He's 72. He's hoping to find love with one of these 22-year-old gilfs, and his 43-year-old marriage.
What did you just say?
22-year-old gilf.
Yeah, what is the 22-year-old?
Never mind. If you don't know, look it up.
No, where did the 22-year-old, what is the
22? Did I say 22-year-old?
Oh, there's 22 of them. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I was too excited about
Gilf.
But they set it up with, his wife of 43 years goes to the hospital with some issue in her stomach, ends up not coming out of the hospital.
Oh, wow.
So that's the sob story they painted at the beginning. But
they 100% know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Love it, hate it. They know what they're doing.
So we're sucked in. We're sucked in now, man.
Show if The Bachelor gets talked about so much, this Golden Bachelor I hear more about than The Bachelor. And I don't know. It's not for me. I'll never even see what it's about. I'm sorry. I don't know. It probably would be a worthy segment maybe next week if we all watched it, but I can't bring myself to do it.
It's not for you. It's not for you. Believe me.
It's you get attached to a few of the characters, the ones that they highlight. Obviously, maybe the main one. Maybe this one helps get, kind of in your age range.
For sure.
But no, my wife is watching one on Netflix. I think I've talked about before. Similar. It's called Love is Blind. I'm sure, Jared, maybe you've heard about it.
Yep.
It's a similar spin. They get put in a room for hours where there's a wall between. Can't see each other. So you're literally meeting these people without seeing them. Get to have conversations. You learn about them. All that. You spend hours and hours and hours and hours with these people, but you never see them. And then you choose which one you want to be with based off that. And then there's the big reveal, like, oh, this is what they look like. So you get sucked into that. She loves it. I've watched a few episodes. I get it. I just can't get into it. It just seems so fake.
Right.
These people thinking that they're actually going to find legitimate love and stuff like that. I'm just like, this is too fake to me. But I get the intrigue. I get it.
There's one more that I watched one episode. My sister had told me about it. She was out of town and somehow they called it up on the satellite. It's a British dating show called Naked Attraction. Have you heard, either one of you heard of this?
I've heard of it. I've seen people on Twitter mention it.
It's like the dating game where they got a girl or a guy, and then there's three of the opposite sex, and they got like these cardboard things in front of them, more fancy than that. But they actually reveal the nakedness of the contestants and in all their glory, these guys, and I'm going, what in the hell am I watching here? And it's like one of the #1 shows in England. And they show it over there basically uncut. I think you can get it here I think it's on Max now. That's where I came across it. But it was a one episode and done, man. It was, I just had to see what everybody was talking about. And
unbelievable.
I'm out.
Yeah.
But there's one other story I wanted to just briefly touch upon. It's a documentary. You know how I like my documentaries. And this one, I never heard of this guy. It's called The Bright Path, the Johnny Bright story. He ended up playing at Drake University. He was an African American, and he was probably a Heisman Trophy candidate there in the early 50s, but there was so much prejudice and racial bias, and Oklahoma A&M, which became Oklahoma State, they definitely put a hit on him in a game. I mean, they were dirty shots left and right.
Wow.
The referees were ignoring it. It was just an awful time, but I had never heard of Johnny Bright before. And if you watch that documentary, tremendously well done. It was on PBS. I happened to come across it, but it looked really good.
This was back in the 50s, you said?
Back in the 50s, yeah. And that was the day and age where there was,
Would you consider yourself kind of an ultimate baseball historian?
Pretty much.
Have you been to the Negro League Museum?
I have not. I've been wanting to. That's in Hamtramck, isn't it?
I've heard it. No.
Oh, no, Kansas City, the one in Kansas City. Yeah.
Yeah, add it to the list.
I should, yeah. There's the only Hall of Fame.
Have you ever been to a game in Kansas City?
I have not.
I was going to say, you could knock out going to a Royals game.
There you
go.
Yeah. Some of the Hall of Fames are on my list. I've been to the baseball one, but I definitely want to go to the pro football in Canton and basketball one in Springfield. We've talked about making a Hall of Fame, excursion here in retirement. So we just might do that.
The basketball one, I'll be honest, I went up there because it's not far from Bristol. It's kind of underwhelming. If you're trying to knock off Hall of Fames and you're a basketball fan, yes, go do it, but kind of underwhelming.
If you're a baseball fan, I mean, I had tears in my eyes in Cooperstown. Just as we started into the museum, they had like a little theater where they had these little kids on a sandlot, and kind of leading up to all the Hall of Famers. Oh man, it gets to you. Baseball, we talked about with Miggy, it just it can get you emotionally.
Yep.
All right, guys. That's all I got. You got anything in entertainment at all?
No. I mean, we're still waiting for your Exorcist review. Maybe that's next week. Maybe
I couldn't fit it in this week, but get this, man. This should be uncalled for. I have a wedding to go to on Saturday up in Traverse City. Yeah, up in Traverse City. So the plan is to make the appearance and watch the Michigan State second half in the hotel. Hopefully,
there you go.
We'll see how it goes.
Maybe there will be a bar at the venue with the TV on or something.
Well, then I might stick around a little longer.
Right.
Yeah.